Oh, I'm always ready.
So tonight on the PowerScripting podcast, we are very glad to have with us again Adam Driscoll. Welcome back, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Adam has been on. I've known Adam a long time. We were talking about this before. We met at the Experts Conference in San Diego, I think, back when you were doing the V workspace commandlets, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have even. Yeah, that's when I got started with PowerShell.
When you were working for Quest?
When I was working for Quest, it was like 2009. And I actually went, like, before this episode that we're recording right now, I went and listened to the episode that we recorded, like, right after that Experts Live conference, or Experts Conference. That was like June or July 2010.
Wow.
That's the first time I was on. Yeah, it was like episode like 130 or something like that. So
yeah, 137.
Wow, that's crazy. Yep, but we were talking about Power GUI VSX. PowerShell 2 was out. And I remember there was something that Hal said about binary snap-ins. I was just like, what year is it? Yeah, it's really funny.
Snap-ins.
Yep. So we've come a long way from there.
Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah, a couple things have changed.
Do you still live in Minnesota?
No, I was in Wisconsin for a long time, and now I have actually moved to
Wisconsin. That was it.
Idaho.
Madison.
Yep, I was in Madison. Yep. So yeah, this year I moved across the country. I got married, and I quit my job and started my own company. So it's been busy.
Congratulations.
And we adopted a dog. Yeah, thank you. So it's been
What with the dog?
We adopted a dog.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been busy, but yeah, now we're out in the Wood River Valley in Idaho, which is kind of south of Sun Valley, Idaho, which is a big ski resort town. So, yeah.
So what brought you to Idaho all of a sudden?
My wife got her PhD, and after that, she was looking for jobs, so we decided to look around. There's not too many French positions for like a French doctorate, so it kind of like opened up our options outside of Madison, that kind of thing. So
I remember you talking about that now at it must have been the summit last year.
I think so, yeah, because we were planning.
Yeah,
we were just planning, or I just had moved probably. So
yeah, I think you were planning your wedding.
Oh,
something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
You're always one of my favorite people to hang out with at those conferences.
Yeah, you're a lot of fun too. So I'm glad we run into each other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm always impressed. Yeah, but yeah, Idaho's been great. It's one of those things where like I didn't know anything about Idaho, and then you're like, oh man, just fields of potatoes. And then you get out here and like, what? Why didn't anyone tell me?
I don't know a whole lot about Idaho.
Yeah. So if you ever are curious, just Google like the Sawtooth Mountains, and that's like what we live like just south of, and it's like our backyard playground kind of thing. So it's been fantastic. It's just beautiful out here. So
that's awesome. Is it snowing there?
Actually, it's been really mild. Like we were in the 60s up until the last couple of days, and it looks like in the next week or so we should be getting snow.
So do you go run in the mountains for fun? Are you still running all the time?
Not quite as much. I didn't train for an Ironman this year, so I did like a half marathon or two or that kind of thing, but I've dialed it down a little bit because of the wedding and moving and all that kind of stuff. So
dialed it down to a few half marathons. That's commendable. Glad you're not taking it too far, not overdoing it.
I don't want to overdo it, right? Yeah. But yeah, so we'll see about next year. I don't know. I have some, grand plans for doing some more stuff, but there's a lot less road out here for biking and that kind of thing. So it's a lot more mountain biking, and we've been doing that a little bit. So.
Oh man, I bet mountain biking's got to be amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah. It's something I had never done before, and then like we did it like once or twice. I'm like, I'm buying a mountain bike. We're doing this.
So you know how Google Street View, sometimes you'll see a picture of the car that's taken the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I somehow was clicking around trying to learn about Idaho while you're talking, and I found this Street View, but it wasn't over a road. I'm looking at it closer. It's a ski trail. I look closer. It's from a snowmobile.
Ah, cool.
So there's a Google Street View camera on a snowmobile taking pictures of trails.
There are underwater Google Street Views.
What? Okay, that one's new to me.
Yeah.
Wow, I never knew that. That's awesome. I know there's like inside store street views and that kind of thing, but
Yeah,
weird.
They've, amped it up a notch.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to, Adam? You said you started a business?
I did. So I started this business like a year ago, but I went full time in June. So I started a company called Iron Man Software, and I just kind of build like PowerShell tools. So originally, like we were talking before, I had Power GUI VSX, which turned into PowerShell tools for Visual Studio, which then I started selling like a kind of like a premium edition pro version for that. And then I got into Universal Dashboard, which has been around for about 2 years now, which is kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So I've been selling like an enterprise version of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. I tried not to stress myself out too much, but it's one of those things.
Well, I mean, all of a sudden you make as much money as the effort that you put in directly. It's
yes.
And there's nobody else to tell you, who to do, how much of it to do. So,
right, yeah, and sometimes it's like,
or you work too much,
right, and it's always the work too much for me, because a lot of times you feel like you're putting in a lot of the effort and you're not seeing the result, right? Because it's not like someone's paying you a check to work hard. You have to convince people that what you're doing is meaningful enough for them to pay for, that kind of thing. So. Yeah.
Have we talked about Universal Dashboard on the podcast? If we have, it's been a little while.
I don't
think so.
Well,
I don't think so either.
We should probably do that.
Yeah, sure. So what Universal Dashboard is, it's a PowerShell module that you can download. And the reason it's called Universal Dashboard is it started out as just like a kind of a data display kind of tool. And the idea is that you have this PowerShell module and it can start up a web server, and that web server then can produce web pages that show data from PowerShell. Like the entire interface is PowerShell. Like you start the website with a PowerShell script, you have all these commandlets to build out the actual content of the pages, that kind of thing. And I started out with charts and counters and that kind of thing. And then it just totally evolved. Like all these people started using it, that kind of thing. And now it's like a full-fledged web framework for PowerShell, and you can build interfaces and REST APIs with PowerShell. The whole front end is built on Facebook's React framework, which allows you to kind of bring in all those React controls. It's the Universal Dashboard framework is extensible, so you can actually build more controls, and then just import additional PowerShell modules. Then all of a sudden, you have a calendar control, or an emoji control, or whatever you want. So it kind of snowballed into something more than just a dashboard.
So could you do an entire website kind of end to end with it, or is it only for the visualization pieces?
You could definitely do a website end to end. So the enterprise features that we sell are authentication and authorization features. So people are building entire websites with their with PowerShell. So not only can you visualize stuff, but you can also take input. And I built this whole method of kind of interacting with other components in the dashboard. So not only can you take input, here's a user form where you can enter some data, and then it creates an Active Directory user, or it creates a ServiceNow ticket, that kind of thing. But you can also create really interactive controls, because it uses something called SignalR, which is kind of an ASP.NET Core JavaScript library that allows you to talk over WebSockets. So when you click a button inside Universal Dashboard, you can actually hook it up to a PowerShell endpoint is what we call it. And then it runs a PowerShell script, and then you can have it interact with a different element on the page, kind of like you would with like WPF or Windows Forms, but in the web browser. And then you're writing all that with PowerShell script. You don't have to worry about any of the underlying technologies all that much. So it lets you build like really interactive websites. Like when I was at the PowerShell conference Asia a couple months ago, I actually stood up a web server in Azure that was running Universal Dashboard, and I put a chat room there, and then I sent out the URL to everyone in the audience, and then everybody was chatting like in the chat room built with Universal Dashboard. So it was kind of cool.
Oh, that's fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it like you can kind of like go nuts with it, which is like good and bad in certain things. Like it's very complicated to work on sometimes, but it's like also very cool what you can build with it. And people are building like stuff that I would never have ever dreamed that they're gonna build with it. So
yeah, just a feature that allows you to run scripts via REST API is extremely powerful. We use that we use PMG, which is an orchestration tool, to do that. You can front end your workflows as, expose them as REST endpoints and use that to run PowerShell code. And that is just extremely powerful for automation.
Yeah. Right. And
integrate with anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've been surprised, like the REST API stuff is some of the most used stuff. I would say it's almost 50-50. Like I spent all this time building out these like crazy UIs that you can build, and then a lot of people just want it for the REST API stuff so they can integrate with all their other things and just call PowerShell over HTTP.
Yeah, I mean, PowerShell has been, glue between systems for forever, right? And since PowerShell version 2. And now it can be glue via REST, which is amazing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there's this part of me that wants to build in Swagger support. So then, or, open API or whatever you call it. So then you can build your REST APIs with PowerShell and put, Swagger over the top and then auto-generate PowerShell on the other end. Yeah. But
I love that idea so much.
Yeah.
So unpack this sentence. I'm looking at your website here, and it says that it's cross-platform, running anywhere, hosted in Azure IIS, Windows Service, or the command line. Take advantage of Docker containers, jump into IoT with Raspberry Pis. That's a lot of ways to run this. Tell me what makes sense. Why would you do some of these different ways to run the same service?
I think it's kind of a marketing thing, honestly, because really like what it's benefiting from is that ASP.NET Core and PowerShell Core run in all those places. So, like ASP.NET Core, you can host in IIS or Azure, or you can run standalone, and that's what allows Universal Dashboard to do that. It's also packaged in as like a service that you can start up and install in Windows, that kind of thing. So I would say what most people are doing, it seems like, is hosting an IIS, kind of like you would any, typical Windows service. I'm hosting a bunch of PowerShell Universal Dashboard stuff up in Azure, which is also technically IIS if you do an app service. But I have seen, some people more or less doing like IoT stuff for fun, that kind of thing. So I haven't really seen a lot of people just running it, necessarily like that. There are some people that are running it on Linux. I think I'm going to pronounce this wrong, and I remember reading a thread somewhere like Nginx or Nginx.
Yeah, Nginx. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nginx. So you can front end it with that kind of thing in Linux to have like a persistent service, that kind of thing. So it's just that's one of the things about Universal Dashboard is like it's very easy to use it all over the place, which also makes it kind of complicated sometimes. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you can use it wherever you kind of need it, sort of thing. So
what are some of the cool things your customers are doing with it that you've seen?
One of my like favorite customer use cases is we have this customer. He's actually based in Wisconsin. They run a trucking company, and what they do with it is they collect information from all their drivers. So they have like a transportation company. They collect information from all their drivers, and they feed certain information in through the REST API, and then collect it in a SQL database. And then from there, they actually visualize it on the other end with Universal Dashboard 2. And we built a mapping control for them so that they can actually see where their trucks are and where their trucks are going, like what the route they're taking, and if they've had any delays, and they can like click on the truck and see all the stops that it's going to take and that kind of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So what was the level of effort to do something like that? I mean, is this kind of a benefit here that people can do things like that without a whole lot of code?
Right. So that's the idea is like now, so I had to do some effort to build the mapping control, but once that's done, now there's a mapping control available. And you can just use PowerShell commandlets to build that map. So you could say new UD map and pretty much specify a base layer, which is like a URL to a tile server, which says like, okay, this is how I want my map to look. Like when you go to Bing Maps, they use the Bing tile server, which shows the different images that you see in the map, and that's it. So then you have a map on your website, and from there you can take it as far as you want. You can start adding, the trucks in, or like the layers for the different routes in, that kind of thing. So you don't have to learn all the JavaScript. You don't have to learn too much about hosting a website, that kind of thing. So it's all in PowerShell.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Code editor control.
So there's actually, if you go to marketplace.universaldashboard.io, that actually has a bunch of community contributions too, because there's a couple templates out there for building custom controls and that kind of thing. Because what you can do is you can actually take, if you know some JavaScript, some PowerShell, you can take React controls from the Node Package Manager library, install them and kind of wrap them with some PowerShell script, and then ship them up to the PowerShell gallery as a PowerShell module, and then provide additional controls for people. So there's a bunch of controls that other people have built and shared with the community that you can just kind of install from the PowerShell gallery and, import module and then say, new UD emoji. So
neat.
Yeah. So it's a fun project. It's very, very cool. And there's like a really big community behind it, which has been really fun. Like the best thing I ever did for Universal Dashboard was create a forums for it. And it's just so fun to see like all the people like helping each other and building controls and showing off their dashboards and that kind of stuff. It's wild. Like that's probably one of my favorite things about this whole thing is that the actual community was built around it, that kind of thing. So
that is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So what is do you spend a lot of time on Universal Dashboard at this point, or is that just kind of one of the things that keep you going?
It's kind of one of the things. I've kind of been bouncing in between 3 things right now. So one of them is PowerShell Pro Tools, which has been around for a while now. That was the first thing I started with. And that's kind of evolving a little bit recently. I added PowerShell 6 and 7 support to Visual Studio. So now you can go or not really cross-platform, but you can use 6 and 7 inside Visual Studio, which you couldn't do before. And then I've started working on the Visual Studio Code plugin a little bit more to just kind of add some more additional features to VS Code if you're using that for PowerShell. And then Universal Dashboard. And then the other thing that I've been working on is kind of, I kind of had the idea to build something on top of Universal Dashboard, because one of the problems I was always having was that, I was never really building anything with Universal Dashboard. I was just, trying to fix the bugs that people are finding with it, sort of thing. So then, I felt like dog fooding it would be the best way to go. So I've started a new project, which is actually called Universal Automation. So you guys are like the third person to hear about this. It's just like this. The idea is that it's going to be like a little automation platform. It's going to be like, you install, very much like Universal Dashboard. You install a module, and then you can run kind of background jobs, and those background jobs have persistence in terms of like a database that can store stuff. It automatically integrates with Git, that kind of thing. And it has Universal Dashboard on top. So the idea was that we were, going to dog food something simple on top, with Universal Dashboard, build an actual product using Universal Dashboard to make Universal Dashboard better, but also kind of build this other thing that we, I think are useful sort of thing. So
would that be anything like Ansible Tower?
Yes, that's kind of like one of the things you were looking at was like Ansible Tower.
AWX.
Right, yeah, exactly. So there's like, because Ansible, you get for free or whatever, then you have Tower on top, which is the dashboard or whatever. So looked at that a little bit and kind of took some ideas from that. I'm trying to keep it like super simple and not overcomplicate this and not make it, like, oh, this has got to be the next Azure DevOps or this has got to be a replacement for Orchestrator. It's nothing like that. It's like if you need like a simple background job automation with persistence that integrates into Git, this would be something you could and
Yeah, if you get credential management into that mix, and that would be really good.
Right. Yeah, and there's some stuff that we've been looking into that. I know there's secret management coming into PowerShell 7 soon. So that was one of the things where it's like, I don't really want to like totally build out this whole thing, if the secret management is coming in PowerShell 7. It's just something that maybe this thing shouldn't do. It could probably integrate with other credential managers, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's something probably won't go out in the first version of this, but eventually, we'll integrate with something like that. So
sure.
Yeah.
Or do it via PowerShell.
Right, exactly. Right. Just give people the opportunity to do that, because the whole idea with UA was like to make it like super PowerShell specific. So it actually like hooks into things like read host and like write progress or like choices, that kind of thing. Like if you use any of that stuff in your script, there's a custom PowerShell host that will actually hook into Universal Dashboard and or whatever mechanism you want. So for example, like if you have a script and it's in a background job and you do read host, it will actually you can have a notification sent out and have someone go to the website and have to type something in, like, okay, to make this script continue, I need to type in some input. And you don't have to like, build something using the universal automation commandlets. It's just using PowerShell. Your existing script should work, kind of thing. So that was the idea.
That's really cool, Adam.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
That's neat. Did you go to Ignite?
I did not go to Ignite. No.
Okay. The only thing I've seen so far about credential management was the session on credential management, which I didn't think was a great session. It wasn't,
really? Okay.
It wasn't like super in depth, but
so I assume here, just to kind of stop you for a second, they basically had to start from scratch, right? Because as I recall from way back, the system.net whatever it is, Credential or something, they couldn't make it cross-platform. I remember having a discussion about this at one point. Yeah,
I know. For example, a secure string does not work. Yeah. I think that's part of the PS credential object or something. So I think this was like trying to fix that as well as trying to fix people like putting passwords in their scripts, kind of thing. So, but I didn't actually watch the Ignite session, so I don't know exactly where they're going with this.
A little bit that I know is that they're planning to integrate with things like whatever the Azure Password Manager vault is, with those types of cloud-based vaults, so that you can vault your credentials and then have an easy way in PowerShell to go get the credential and use that credential object to do stuff. And then eventually, I think the initial support, I think they're looking for things like Azure and AWS. And then eventually, I think they will, I'm trying to remember, hopefully we'll be able to get somebody from the PowerShell team on to actually explain this to us, because it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about on the show for sure.
Yeah. And the thing that I like immediately think of is like, what if you're not using Azure or AWS? It's like there's all these credential vaults like that are, on-prem kind of thing.
CyberArk and
right. Yeah, exactly.
And I think the hope is that they are going to hook into as many of those as possible to make it easy for their customers to leverage that kind of stuff. And of course, they're going to start with Azure and AWS and that kind of the major cloud providers.
Right. So, I think it's a good idea. Like if they can partner with those guys and those guys can implement some good stuff that makes it really easy for PowerShell users to do that kind of thing, it's going to make it way easier for everyone to integrate in their environments. And the uptake of this will be much better.
Yeah, and they've got a few people over at Amazon that know a thing or two about PowerShell that may be able to help
Really? Like who? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I saw that they're coming out with some cool stuff around. I think Bruce is working on it himself about like some DSL that they're building for PowerShell to like that's similar to Azure RM, but for AWS using PowerShell. So I'm not exactly sure. I saw some stuff fly by about that. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting.
So as is my custom, I've been playing while y'all are talking. And anybody listening, go to poshud.com. You can check out kind of you walking through all the different examples. I kind of like how you set that up, Adam. It's you have the examples right next to the code. Pretty slick.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's actually, that entire website is running UD. So that's all built on UD.
Could this be a replacement for something like Grafana, or is it not really designed to handle metrics and stuff?
It's funny because that's like the number one thing people always say. It's like, why don't you just use Grafana? And it's just like a joke that I have now. But it's, I'd say it's like you can build things that Grafana can do, but I would say that Grafana is probably better at displaying metrics and that kind of thing. If you have that kind of infrastructure, you're willing to invest the time in setting up something like InfluxDB and hooking Grafana into that and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of like resources out there for that kind of thing. I think where this plays into is like, okay, you could do that, but if you want to like build something with PowerShell to display that kind of stuff, but also have some sort of like management tooling on the side of that, like, okay, you have a dashboard that shows off some really, really cool things on the homepage, but then you also want a page where you can like create users or like unlock accounts or like that kind of thing.
Yeah, take an action on what you're seeing on the dashboard.
Exactly. So then, so then you could kind of mix both of them. I mean, you could probably host Grafana inside UD somehow, that kind of thing,
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it kind of gives you a lot of, wiggle room to build what you need and build the tools that you need in a website. So it's more than just display. I'd say it's more of display and management, while Grafana is more just display.
Yeah, I've been playing with Wavefront recently.
Is that similar to Grafana?
It is. I think it's owned by VMware.
Okay.
And, it's, cloud, send your metrics to the cloud and visualize it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, whenever
it's like Grafana. It's similar in some ways.
Yeah, that stuff always makes me real jealous when I look at that. Like after building UD, it's like, oh man, it'd be real cool to build something where you can like kind of drag and drop and like, kind of like Power BI where you can like get in a data source and like select some of the, accesses and then like put them into a particular like control, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like very cool, but yeah.
I'm looking at some of these controls. These are cool.
Yeah, there's been some funny ones that have been put out there. I love it. I love seeing like the weird ones go out,
Yeah, somebody decided they really needed to have that, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I needed an image carousel.
Image carousel is big. Some of them are useful, but yeah, like UD Sprite, I like that one. That one's cool. But yeah, there's an endless possibility. Because that's the thing is like sometimes I'll just like, what's a cool React control that's out right now? And I'll like just Google around a little bit. Like, wow, I should put that in UD because then you can like wrap these like, little PowerShell commandlets around it and it's like in UD. So
that is so nice.
Yeah, it's fun. Very fun.
All right. So what else you got going on?
What else? Let's see. Looks like I'm going to the PowerShell Summit next year, so I know registration is open for that right now.
Yeah, they're like 40% sold already.
Yeah, that was quick. I think it's been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my approval.
Yeah. Was it? I think it's May, April. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I think that should be cool. I'll be talking about the Selenium module I built. So I don't know if you guys have ever played with Selenium at all.
I don't even know what Selenium is.
Oh, okay. It's a
headless web browser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can actually run multiple web browsers. You can do headless Chrome, or you can do like, I don't know, headed Chrome, I guess. Or like Firefox or IE. It just automates the web browser for you. So what I did is for universal dashboard testing, I built a Selenium module to automate that. So then you can kind of like, I use it for testing. I integrate that with testing, like Pester, to like, validate universal dashboard stuff. But you could do it for anything. You could, automate, send an email through Gmail or something, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'll be talking about.
What are those tools called? RPA? Robotic Process Automation. Is that right?
I've
RPA
heard
tools.
That's what I would call this. No. But Selenium is like, it's basically anywhere that you need to automate a web request that requires the GUI.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's
exactly.
like you want to, test your website, and your website requires that you log in, you add something to a cart, you click these 3 things, that multiple step transaction. You need to automate to do some synthetic testing. So you can write a Selenium script that will tell the Selenium browser, do this, 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 and this, without having to pop a browser window up on a screen, which is silly when you're automating. Did I do that pretty decent amount of justice there? All right.
Yeah, totally.
So we have a question. Kevin wants to know if you can talk more about the WPF capabilities in Pro Tools.
Sure.
So maybe you can give us a Pro Tools overview and focus on the WPF stuff.
Yeah, totally. So Pro Tools comes in like a bunch of different, I'd call flavors. It's all like one license, and you just buy one thing, and that works for everything. But it integrates into Visual Studio Code. There's a standalone forms designer, like a WinForm designer that generates PowerShell script. And then there's a PowerShell module that does some of the stuff like bundling into XEs. It actually contains the form designer and can create installers. In terms of the WPF stuff, that's only integrated into Visual Studio right now. I've actually looked at some external WPF controls that we could integrate into VS Code. It would kind of pop up the same way that the WinForm designer does. So that's possible. I think kind of what it does inside Visual Studio is it does some of the boilerplate work. Like for the most part, when you're building a WPF GUI, it's all XAML, which is that XML format that you're creating, and you have the drag and drop designer, and then it creates the XAML, and then that XML string is then saved, and then you can load that XAML file via PowerShell commands to like display that XAML, and then integrate it with your PowerShell scripts by hooking up event handlers and that kind of thing. So what Pro Tools does with that is it actually takes care of some of that boilerplate work. It loads the XAML for you, and it hooks up the event handlers, that kind of thing. I'd say that it's not super hard to get started. I think it kind of depends what you're doing. Sometimes I feel like XAML can be harder to work with in PowerShell than WinForms is, just because you have this whole like other structure that you're dealing with, and XAML is kind of built to behave a little bit differently than WinForms is, and I think WinForms kind of behaves a little bit better with PowerShell. That said, if you learn how to do it and you're willing to kind of put into the work, it's worth kind of investing in. I think going forward, there are some other projects that are coming around. You should look into PS Avalonia. It's a project I have on GitHub that is very similar to XAML, except that PS Avalonia is cross-platform. It uses XAML, and it kind of works the same way as WPF. And I built a PowerShell module around that, and it works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. Kind kinda on Mac. There's some issues with Mac actually, but Linux and Windows it works pretty well. And that's
to do the visualization type stuff, the form creation.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, very similar to how WPF works. Yeah, so you pop up a form.
What technology is that using to draw the windows and stuff?
I think that it's doing native bindings on each platform. So
okay.
I want to. I don't remember the exact technologies involved for each platform, but I want to say it's like GDK on Linux and Mac and DirectX on Windows or something like that. So I'm not 100% sure about the underlying bits of Avalonia, but that project is still kind of in beta, so there's a lot of things that are missing from it, but it's something to pay attention to. And that's one other place I've been looking for Pro Tools is like, I could build the WPF stuff, but it'd be really cool to build the Avalonia stuff, so then you could kind of go cross-platform with some of that. So I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with the WPF tools from here. I think they're kind of like more or less complete unless there are bugs in terms of the Visual Studio stuff. And I'm not 100% convinced I'm going to bring them into Visual Studio Code because it seems like if I'm going to bring them into code, it should be cross-platform since, I don't know. There's the form designer there already, and I don't know. It seems kind of redundant a little bit. So,
and I wonder how much need there's going to be for to create those type of UIs on top of PowerShell cross-platform. I mean, I guess for Mac, it would make sense. But for Linux, I mean, a lot of times, those servers don't have a UI anyway. So what would be the point? I don't know. Right. I guess it depends on what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like when I came out with the forms designer for like VS Code and Visual Studio, everybody like on Twitter was like, wow, that's so 2006. I can't believe you did that. Blah, 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 blah. And then the number one thing that people buy from Iron Man software is the Windows Forms Designer. 100%. It's like, that's just, people want simple tools that they can build that they can give to their end users. And that's like probably one of the easiest ways to go. So, So it's just kind of interesting how that works. But yeah, like you said, like Linux, nobody's probably going to use that kind of thing. So, but
2019, you're the Linux desktop.
Yep, it's finally happening. The year of the Linux desktop is the Linux running in Windows subsystem for Linux.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, Pro Tools is exciting. Like, I don't know. The next thing that I've been really focusing on is VS Code. Is like I feel like there's a lot of cool like things that we can do with VS Code to kind of make it a better experience. I think people are somewhat unhappy with the VS Code experience right now. I think the next big version, the one that's currently the preview version, if you guys haven't played with it yet, it's actually pretty good right now. There's still some issues, but overall, it's way better than what's out as the stable version. I think that's coming out beginning of next year.
And it has the play button.
It has the play button finally. Yeah, it has the play button. Yeah.
Somebody clue me in. I'm behind on that joke.
So there is in the preview version of the PowerShell tools for Visual Studio Code or PowerShell plugin. Is that what it's called? The plugin?
Yeah, extension.
They have the, play and the debug controls like you have in the ISE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Those buttons, just play this line, play the whole thing.
Gotcha.
I think there's just some disconnect between their user base and like who is developing the controls sometimes. Like, it seems simple from someone that uses VS Code all the time that you just hit F5 and that's how you run something. But someone that's coming from the ISE that might be more attuned to like clicking the play button or that kind of thing.
Or they want to do F8 and those types of things.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It seems like there was recently a Reddit thread about the preview version coming out and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of feedback about why people are still using the ISE and that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting to see that still a lot of people using the ISE.
People still use the ISE. I mean, they do because it's there, right?
Yep, that's the other thing. Yeah.
VS Code is just so much better, and
yeah, it really is.
It just is.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I don't know. That's why I've been looking at some of the Pro Tools stuff. Is like, what can we make this experience even better? Like, take this to the next level for people that are in here all the time doing PowerShell stuff. So I added like the variable explorer so that you can see your variables that you have defined in your current script without being in the debugger, and some other stuff like remember Power GUI's like provider, where you could like click through the different providers as like a tree view. I added that in there.
Yes.
So I was kind of thinking
That's
like,
cool.
wow, it'd be really cool to like, recreate Power GUI in VS Code, but
I remember the train. I always loved the train, the Power GUI train.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder who came up with that logo.
Man, I haven't heard of Power GUI in a long time.
Yeah.
Remember Kirk and Dimitri?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who would have been I'm thinking who would have done the logo?
Yeah, I don't know. It was before my time. I got into the Power GUI group or whatever, involved with those guys a little after that was all kind of popular and everything. So
I think I still have a Power GUI sticker somewhere. I don't think it's on my... I've got a bunch of stickers on the side of my audio cabinet. That's where I've got all my stickers. Yeah. I'm trying to see if I have one, but I don't know if I've got one on there.
I feel like I have one somewhere. I don't know.
I haven't seen that in a while. It's been a little while, guys.
Yeah.
Like, who can find the oldest something of that nature? And hold on.
I've got one somewhere. It's crazy. Yeah, like I said, I was listening to that old episode and just talking about all that Power GUI stuff and like how Power GUI VSX used to work inside Visual Studio. It was just like I took the Power GUI VSX editor and just shoved it in Visual Studio.
Nice.
Yeah. It was real dirty.
Hal's over there playing with stickers now.
Yeah, I'm looking for old stickers. All I have is PowerShell.org.
Yeah, I have a bag of stickers, but it's upstairs.
Yeah, that's something.
Here's something.
Yeah, collected a lot of.
I've got a stack of I brought stickers back from Summit last year, and I had stacks of them on my cube, and all the Git ones disappeared immediately. There were so many cool Git stickers. Oh, nice. I love PowerCLI. That's awesome. But yeah, I still have a stack of chocolatey stickers on my desk because I'm like, one of 5 people who knows what chocolatey is.
Hey, I'm one of those 5 people too.
Well, one of 5 people at work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gotta start swaying those guys. I think we have at least 2 chocolatey people in the YouTube chat right now.
Oh yeah, chocolate is awesome.
Yeah.
There's even Ansible support for chocolatey, which is
interesting.
I love.
Maybe we got to get some UA support for chocolatey. I guess I don't know how that would work, but
make it happen.
I just thought of one other cool project we can talk about that I just did recently. Did you guys see Snake?
No.
Okay, I like a couple days ago. I don't know. This is actually a module that I worked on like 6 months ago, and then recently I decided to make it cross-platform. And it's called Snake, like SNEK, kind of like the weird internet way to spell snake. And it is a PowerShell module for integrating with Python. So there's a project called Python for .NET. And what it does is it actually has a bunch of .NET bindings for Python code, and it allows you to call Python code directly from .NET without spinning out the Python process. So I've had a lot of people be like, why would you ever do that? Why don't you just, call Python? But the idea is that you can actually call Python without starting Python itself, and then you can actually pass objects back and forth between PowerShell and Python. So you can actually create like a PowerShell class and instantiate it, set some properties, pass it to Python, and then it actually gets like a Python hash table or whatever you call it. And then it can manipulate that and then pass rich objects back to you, so you could get like, numbers and strings and that kind of thing back from Python. So I thought that was kind of neat. And really, it's mostly not my doing. It's mostly the Python for .NET team that like built this cool stuff. And and that works cross-platform, so you can actually run it on Linux and Mac and that kind of thing, in Windows PowerShell and PowerShell Core. As long you got to have Python installed, and it goes out and finds the Python like DLLs or binaries, and then loads Python up inside PowerShell. And then you can integrate with it. So
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so that's wild. Apparently, the InfoSec team or the InfoSec like group of people thought that was really cool because it leaves less of a footprint than starting Python itself. So now you have PowerShell that starts up Python. That doesn't have to start up Python. It loads the Python DLL and runs it in memory, that kind of thing. So seems like it could be some cool integrations.
I wonder if that'd be useful for AI, because I know there's a lot of AI stuff that they're doing.
There's a lot of AI stuff in Python.
Yeah, totally. And for the previous company I worked for, we actually had a bunch of Python stuff that was using the machine learning algorithms and libraries inside Python. And we had to integrate with it via the command line, like start Python, run some Python stuff, output that to somewhere, collect that with something else, get it into a database, that kind of thing. So it'd be kind of cool to like be able to use the tools you're familiar with to integrate with Python, but also to use all these cool machine learning things,
right?
That kind of thing. So, yeah, because there is a lot of neat stuff in Python around that. So
are you actually contributing to or what PowerShell projects are you contributing to? Are you actually contributing code to the PowerShell extension for VS Code?
Only a little bit here and there,
okay.
Kind of when it suits my needs, I guess. I added like support for attaching to other run spaces in VS Code. So like if you start, I ever used PS Thread Job or like even like Bosch or Bose module. I think it's PSR or Posh RS Job.
Mm-hmm. I've used the Invoke Parallel, which uses run spaces, but
yeah. So like what you can do there is like if you set like a wait debugger inside that run space, you can actually go in VS Code and there's a little drop down in the debugger that says like attached to like, I don't remember what it's called, like attached to local run space. And then it allows you to pick from a background run space. So then you can debug that background run space just like you would the normal PowerShell script. So
well, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool for like debugging jobs and that kind of thing. I did it for UD because UD uses a bunch of background run spaces, and it's like really hard for people to like see what's going on in their UD run spaces sometimes. So I did that. But yeah, I haven't really contributed to like PowerShell Core all that much. Mostly just feedback on like PowerShell standard library, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, been in and around it a little bit. Awesome. Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to in PowerShell 7 with the stuff that's been announced?
There's so much language stuff I'm really excited about. Like the null coalescing operator. That's where like if you have an object, you can use the question mark dot and then call a method. And if that object is null, it won't give you that error. Like you can't call a method on a null value dot, variable or whatever.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so you just put a little question mark before the dot, and then it just avoids that error. It just more or less says like, if this is null, call this method. If not, don't, sort of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. There's a bunch of other little language features that I'm really excited for. I'm excited for more or less they're going to have Windows compatibility pack built into PS7. So a lot more of the Windows PowerShell modules are not going to work. So I think that's going to be really, really important for getting people to adopt this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are the big things, like the language features, and then, even more support for modules that we already have, that kind of thing. It's huge. So yeah, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a big release, really big.
Yeah.
Oh, ternary operator. Yeah, that's a good one too. So the ternary operator is where, like if you have an if else, and let's say you want to set a variable, and you have the variable on the left side, and typically what you do is you have to define the variable above the if else, set it to some like default value like null, and then say if this, then set the variable this, else set the variable this. With a ternary operator, what you can do is you can say, put the variable on the left-hand side, equals, then you have the condition, and then you just use a question mark, and then that's the true statement, and then a colon, and then that's the false statement. So then it like greatly reduces the the amount of script you have to write, and it's been like a feature of like C and C++ and C# and that kind of thing for a long time. So like bringing that to PowerShell is like really, really cool. Yeah. So yeah, language features are big.
I'm definitely looking forward to for each parallel.
Oh yeah, that'll be huge too. Yeah, finally don't have to use workflows. Did I ever tell you about the time I was sitting next to Bruce in a I remember where it was. It had to be the PowerShell Summit.
Share Bruce stories. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to share a Bruce story. So I'm sitting there, and someone is presenting on how to do parallel stuff, and they have a whole section on workflows and the for each, parallel, that kind of thing. And Bruce, like, they get to the workflow section, and Bruce just like taps me on the shoulder and looks over and just says, "Whoops." Yeah.
Jonathan, you have a Bruce story?
Do I have a good Bruce story? I don't know that I have a good Bruce story off the top of my head.
Were you there with me that year where we were at, I don't remember the name of the place, but it was a pub that has board games, and we were playing Settlers of Catan or something. Joel was there, and I want to say Bruce was there too.
I've been to Mox with you guys, yep. But I don't think I've ever been there when Bruce was there. I've been there when Adam was there, but I don't think I've been there. You were there last year, weren't you, Adam? You went to Mox with us, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've been there with Bruce.
I don't remember anything that he did there, but I remember sitting next to him. So it's not a great Bruce story. I'm sorry. That's all I got. All right, good stuff.
Yeah, so definitely.
Where should we send people to stay up to date on what all you're working on? I mean, you've got the ironsoftware.com, Universal Dashboard.io.
Yep, ironmansoftware.com is the big one. Universal Dashboard.io is like, if you go to the forums, that's where like the most things are happening for Universal Dashboard. I've got GitHub repositories that are always really active, so I have an Ironman software like organization that is where all like that, the company stuff is. And then I have an Adam Driscoll is my GitHub repo or username that I have all my other repos under. So bunch of stuff going on there. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter. I am probably way too active on there, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
You can see dog pictures.
Yeah, you can see dog pictures, mountain pictures, that kind of thing.
And if you want Adam to make a new Grafana control for Universal Dashboard, then just say so. He'll do it.
Yeah, right. Just go make a GitHub issue on the Universal Dashboard repo and upvote it like 10 times.
So did sticker swap ever take off?
No.
Okay.
I wanted it to. I thought it was going to be cool. But I think, it's one of those things where people don't actually want to have to ship a sticker to someone. Like, even, like, I shipped the most stickers out of anyone when I started Sticker Swap because everybody was requesting my stickers. And after a while, I was like, oh, my God, I don't want to send this sticker.
No, I mean, it's like a lost art form is not the right word here, but it's just, you don't write letters anymore. You don't mail stuff anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, and then I started, realizing like all these people are requesting stickers from around the world, and it's like I have to go to the post office and buy special stamps and everything to like send these stickers and all this stuff. So I think, for me, it was like worth it because I was like, I'm going to make sticker swap a thing. And then for everyone else, it's like, why would I do that? Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions from the audience?
So do you ski?
I am a cross-country skier right now. I haven't downhill skied yet, but I think that's what I'm going to be doing.
Probably a lot of here in a couple months.
All right. Hopefully, if it actually snows. Last year we had the most snow it wasn't the most snow ever, but we had the most snow in February ever, and we had 120 inches in February. So we'll see about this year. Everyone thinks it's going to be a bad year. So
a bad year is in a lot of snow, or is in no snow?
No snow. Yeah, this is definitely because everybody wants snow out here. So it's like,
I'm thinking bad year for snow in Idaho, Utah, Colorado is, you guys can't complain.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Don't worry, there will be skiing.
There will be skiing. Well, the mountain already has snow on it because they already made it all. So there's definitely snow available already.
So does it get colder there or in Madison? It's got to get colder in Madison, right?
It gets colder in Madison. Here it's like the teens are about as cold as it was, sort of thing. Yeah. So it's mostly it was a lot more snow last year than I'd ever seen. On either side of our driveway, the snow was probably like 2 or 3 feet above my head.
Oh my gosh, above your head.
Yeah,
wow.
It was crazy. Like you had to I didn't have a snowblower. And every morning I'd walk out there, I was like, no shit. And there'd be like 6 inches of snow.
Please, no.
Yeah, all right. So maybe if the snow spreads itself out a little bit better or more, that would be better. So, yeah. Adam, how is marriage affecting your coding time? I would say it's only marginally affecting it right now. I think if I keep it up though, then my marriage won't be affecting it at all because there won't be.
Yeah, pace yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly. How do you make your zoom ins on your animated GIFs? Oh, I use Camtasia. It has a tool where you can animate the actual like zoom in. So there's actually just an animation tab where you can kind of zoom in into the section that you want and then zoom in on that.
Nice.
Cool. Any other questions? Looks like that's a no.
Looks like that's a no.
Cool.
Alrighty. Jonathan, any last words?
I don't think so.
Any final words?
I'm so out of touch with the questions. I don't even know what final question to ask.
All right.
We kind of got out of the habit of doing that.
I got one.
Okay.
I got one. Adam, what was your favorite media consumption in the past, in 2019? Book, movie, TV?
Oh, that's a really good question. Let me think for 1 sec. I really liked Stranger Things.
Were you into season 2?
I liked season 1 way more than I liked season 2.
Okay. Not just me then. I really loved season 1. I mean,
season 1 was one of those things where like I could probably watch it a couple more times, sort of thing. But yeah, season 2 not so much.
I don't know if it was maybe we'd had enough of the 80s flashbacky kind of vibe or something. I don't know, but it just didn't do it for me as much.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't like where Eleven went off on her own little journey thing, and like met this other person and got all goth. That was just kind of weird. It didn't really work for me.
Yeah, right.
I only watched a couple episodes. We didn't even get that far into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought season 3 was great. I love season 3.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't actually seen season 3 yet.
It's a lot better than season 2.
Okay.
I thought.
Good to know.
Well, I did this thing where when I started my business and I went full time on it, I canceled all my subscriptions, everything. I'm like, I'm going to be poor. I can't do any of this. So then I missed all TV. So I got to go back.
All right. Good enough. So we actually had another question. Last second.
All right. How do you reach into the PSIC to get its variable statement about PowerShell Pro Tools? Feel free to claim trade secret. Right now, it's not really a trade secret. I'm just I'm getting that run space, and then I'm executing get variable on the run space. That is the PowerShell editor services run space. But fun fact, that doesn't work in the preview extension because of PS readline. So I need to figure out a new way to do that. So I can tell you how it works now. I can't tell you how it's going to work when the preview extension goes live because I don't know.
But PS readline breaks it?
PS readline keeps the run space in a busy state because it's always reading the line, which I didn't know until I started looking at it. And then there's this whole queuing mechanism that PowerShell editor services uses to like queue what needs to be executed next on the run space, that kind of thing. So, it's one of those things where everyone gives everyone shit for VS Code stuff not supporting PS readline or like being flaky. And then when you look at the code and all the stuff that they had to do to support PS readline in there, I'm like, whoa, I'm really surprised that works at all. Yeah. So, Tyler actually did reach out to me and asked how I was doing that and told me that the preview extension was going to break that probably. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Well, that's the great thing about, working for myself now is like, this is the time I wanted. I wanted the time to be able to like spend on weird projects like this that, typically I would have done at night, now I can do during the day. So it's kind of fun.
Nice.
How do you discover something like PS readline is holding on to some part of the PowerShell? So I figured that out because you can look at the run space, and then if you look at the run space properties, you can actually look at the command that's executing on that run space. So
it's always readline?
It's always readline, yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So there's a whole queuing thing that I only partially understand, sort of thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Adam, I wanted to thank you a lot for spending time with us tonight. It looks like the chat room really came out in force and helped the conversation go. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you at Summit.
Yeah, hopefully you can get that through, and we could hang out. Yeah, but
awesome.
Thanks for having me on, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. So, always a pleasure.
Same here, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you guys later.
And I apologize to you people who are joining us live. That I have been, I'm way behind at posting the audio for these. I mean, I'm months behind posting the audio. So I really need to get caught up. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I know the feeling now because I'm doing some of the production for the Splunk Talk podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh yeah, this is the stuff that I could just Jonathan would just take care of it. It would just happen until it doesn't happen.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the questions.
See ya.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.